Yay, we got our music back. Woohoo! You can tell Sue's back with us because the music is now working. So welcome to Rewind and Reflect, where we believe in the universal truth that there's no such thing as coincidences or mistakes, and we're here to share our life story on that subject with you. I don't know if you're seeing 3 on a screen or just 1, but you're about to see Sue's back with us, and we have Kristin on too. It's double. It's double the trouble. So this is very exciting. So hi, everybody. I'm Deb Miller.
Hi, everybody. I'm Susan Doyle. It's good to be back. It's been more than a minute. And
Yes.
let me tell you, Kristin, I owe you a debt of gratitude for
I owe you
for filling in, and you guys have been getting great responses on your social media posts. So I'm happy to be back. Happy to be back.
Well, we're happy to have you. And we asked Kristin to join along on this one because she's just so fun to have with us. She's got so many amazing things to say and experiences to share. But specifically on the topic that we're going to talk about today, both Sue and Kristin have experience on this topic. And the topic is being raised as an adopted child. And I'm just going to say a little bit about, what got me on this subject was, again, if you've been listening to the past few podcasts, we talk a lot about the program of AA and NA, and we talk about how much work we always have to do on ourselves to keep us away from sliding back into that drink or drug. And one of those things is admitting to and coming to terms with the fact that we have character defects, and those character defects can get us in a lot of trouble if we don't tame them. One of my character defects is fear of abandonment. I have a real fear of abandonment. I've been in situations before where I felt it and it's happened, and it's a real thing for me. So I often think to myself, and I've asked Kristin and Sue this on different occasions, but they're going to share with you what their experience is about being adopted. And does that fear of abandonment come to fruition because you were given up by your biological moms? And does that ever come into your mind or go away? Or is it something that you've just never even thought about? So if you don't mind, let's share your experience with the being adopted. And Sue, if you don't mind just kind of starting us off, that would be amazing.
Boy. Well, thank you. So when I first met Kristin, I don't know how we launched so quickly into this commonality that we have of being adopted. But so for me, I think I need to first off say a couple of things. Number one, when it comes to adoptive families, adoptive parents, I hit the lottery. I mean, I really did. I never wanted anything ever in my life. My actual needs were met tenfold.
I have a question already. How
Yes.
old were you when you were adopted?
I was 6 weeks old.
Ooh.
So I guess the way it worked back in 1968 is, and Kristin, you could probably speak to this as well, is it was very much like a court transaction. It wasn't how it is today, where the adoptive parents look through a little picture book and pick the people that they want to adopt. So my parents are Jewish. They wanted, to raise 2 Jewish children. My brother is also adopted. He is about 4 years older than me. No, 3 years older than me, 4 years in school based on where our birthdays were. So just like Catholic has something, Jewish Family Services has something. So my parents, and again, in 19 Jewish Family Services and say, I'd like to adopt a boy. And boom, there's a boy. And then, okay, 2 years, 3 years later, I would like to adopt a girl, and boom, there's a girl. So the only prerequisite, so to speak, for my birth mother was that she had to be Jewish. Whether that is true or not, there's no like DNA testing back then that, or, you don't have to put your bar mitzvah card up saying, okay, I'm really Jewish. So, who knows? The father, and this is how it is in the Jewish religion, the woman, whatever the religion, if the mother is Jewish, the kids are considered 100% Jewish, regardless of what the ethnicity is of the father.
Okay.
So, I guess it was one of those things, and this I learned a little later. It makes sense. So I was born in a hospital in New Jersey, and my birth mother knew that she was giving me up to Jewish Family Services. So Jewish Family Services took me and placed me into a foster home-ish kind of thing.
I have another question.
Yes.
I'm sorry. This all fascinates me, but okay, so you're 6 weeks old, the mother gives birth, and until you're 6 weeks, you're put into this fosterish home.
Correct.
Those are such incredibly important bonding
Correct.
times for baby and mama.
Correct.
So who's bonding with you?
No idea.
But you had somebody.
I have no idea who the person is. The person was. I have no idea.
But
neither do my parents.
Oh, wow. Okay. But they know, I hope they know that you were in a place that somebody was holding you and bonding with you. I hope so. Okay. I hope.
Urge, assumption and giving that, I'm going to do a little AA speak, giving that up to God. I mean, one hopes and one assumes foster families or these foster parents or these foster environments, they knew it's not like, so there's a foster knowing that you're giving it back to the parent, and then there's a foster wanting to adopt kind of thing. So
okay.
I'm just going to interrupt for one second, if I may. So very similar so far to Sue, Deb.
Yeah.
7 weeks old, Catholic Family Services, or the Village for Families and Children in Hartford, as it was called at the time. I actually have actual notes from my foster mother, I'm assuming, which kind of made me feel like this one sticks out to me because I still, baby does not like the sun.
She still doesn't like the sun.
That would not have been a note on mine.
No sun.
That's
the two
for
of you
sure.
love the sun. But whatever, like I look at that and I'm like, oh, that's nice. Someone cared for me for 7 weeks, because Deb is exactly right. Like, we think back to our own children and the tremendous importance of bonding in those first weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't really realize that until I had my own children, but
Amen.
So you're taken out of the hospital, however long you're allowed to stay there in 1968, and given to somebody to sort of meet my biological needs, I guess. Did they hold me and snuggle me? I don't know. I mean, I don't have any notes on anything. And so then I'm assuming that my parents go through this court production and legally go through the adoption process. Everything is sealed. I don't even know if it's been destroyed at this point. Everything is completely sealed, and somebody from Jewish Family Services goes to pick me up at this house and hands me over to my parents at Jewish Family Services.
Wow.
And then I'm taken home.
And raised
That's
by
it.
two amazing people. At what age were you when they started talking about you being adopted, and did you even know what that meant?
Great question. I was told, like, I can't remember a time that I wasn't told. So, kudos to my parents again. Back in 1968, we had a series of books that they used to read us that, kind of out how we were chosen and how that, they came to get us and the whole thing. So I don't really remember a time that I didn't know that I was adopted. And I think because of that, it never felt different. It never felt like they were not my parents, because it started being socialized and communicated with me prior to knowing where babies come from. You know, it was just like, oh, well, you know, instead of taking you home from the hospital, we took you home from like the book was like, we take you home from the adoption agency.
Yeah. Okay.
Was
there ever a conversation on like, why, like, could they not have biological children, or did you ever get
I
into?
remember I asked once and it was sort of met with, that's not important. You're here. So the conversation sort of got shut down. And I didn't really press it. Like, it didn't really matter, like who couldn't have or who could, or, you know, and I don't even know what type of testing was back then, right? Like fertility testing kind of thing. I mean, you know, this was 58 years ago, 59 years ago, if they're trying to have kids, you know what I mean? Even longer than that, because my brother, they would have tried to have kids before my brother.
Was there ever a time, and Kristin, I promise I'm going to get to you too, but and I want to know the same thing, but these questions keep coming to my mind. As you grow older and you're a teenager and you're around a lot of other people that aren't adopted, did you ever feel like a little disconnected from people because you were adopted?
That's a great question. So firstly, never.
Good.
Until people would point it out to me. So people would say to me, well, you know, that's not your real mom. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course it's my real mom. Like, well, you know, she didn't have you. And I'm like, but
people would say, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it's not so I never felt different until people made comments. But even then I didn't, it was more of like, what are you, fucking stupid? Like,
this is why I always said Sue needs a shirt that just says fuck off on it.
You know what I mean? I'm like, well, how can you say that?
Yeah.
Like it was and this was way before, let me tell you something, I'm sure you two can agree, way before I ever did any work on myself, right? Or tried to dive into things like, why do I do the things that I do? Or why do I have the triggers that I have, right? It was just like, well, who else is my mom if this isn't like, nobody else did the work of being my mom. So
there was nobody else in our house cooking dinner.
Exactly.
So
like, okay. Or it's like, she's not your real, I always used to get, well, that's not your real mom, or those aren't your real parents. I'm like,
no, they're make-believe.
Well, who would be my real parents?
Those are my make-believe parents.
Yeah. So, you know, and really, I never, ever, ever, ever thought about it, ever. I never really gave it any power, any thought. There was a couple of very defining moments, I think, in my life that I thought about it for a brief moment, and then I just sort of let it go. Number one was when I was pregnant with my kids. And every fucking time you go into the doctor's office, they ask if you have a history of this and history of that, and I'm like, okay. And then I was like, you know what? And then I was going to do some, you know, back then they did amniocentesis, you know, they pulled the amniotic fluid out, which they don't do anymore.
They don't do that anymore? I didn't even know that.
Oh, God, you're like puncturing the amniotic sac. Like,
do they have other ways of testing to make sure the baby's healthy?
Yeah, and I was just like, you know what? I was super healthy. I was, you know, my pregnancies were, I was so young. And I thought to myself, if I had any of this medical information, would I do anything differently than I'm doing now? And the answer always came up, no.
That's good. That's a good way to look at it.
So I never thought to go, and even to this day, where I'll go see a new doctor, or you have to go to other doctors as you get a little older, right? You know? And it's always like, I have lived such a healthy, on purpose life that I wouldn't do anything different if I had the information. If I had any type of medical information, I wouldn't. And the last thing I'm going to say is, once in a while, it has crossed my mind when people say to my daughter and I, you guys are identical.
Yeah.
Like, we are identical mannerisms, identical personalities. And I often wonder, I'm like, I wonder if there's like another person out there that is exactly like us. But, you know, I think I'm going to let Kristin talk, and then I have I have pretty finite opinions about like finding birth parents and things like that. But I'll let Kristin, you know, give you her history and to see. I think it's pretty similar to mine, but
and before we go to Kristin, so you're having some glitches on your computer. So just so you know, it doesn't matter. You're not freezing up. It just is delayed a little bit. So for those watching, we know we're having technical difficulties, but
I am a technical difficulty.
yes, we all are.
Please
All
stay.
Stand by. Okay, go ahead, Miss Kristin.
All right. So yeah, so like I said, very, very similar to Sue, except for you know, and kudos to my parents. I would say I hit the jackpot dad-wise. Jackpot. My parents, from the get-go, told both. I have a brother who's 4 years younger than me, and he's also adopted. Always told us we were chosen.
Oh, the one thing that I do get, Kristin, excuse me for interrupting, when you tell people that you're a brother's adopted, do they say to you, well, are you really brother and sister?
Oh, so
like, which means that's code for were you adopted from the same person?
Get that question all the time. So I just always say,
like, no,
he's
You're not
Italian,
puppies.
I'm Irish.
Yeah, you're not puppies, not
We're
from the
not.
same litter.
Yeah, did you come from the same breeder?
Two different things. But yeah, and yeah, so my folks told me from the get-go, and they had a whole story for me. I had a whole story that I was raised with. I knew that I was, my parents were high school sweethearts. They went away to college. Whoopsie daisies, got pregnant, had me, wanted to finish college, gave me up for adoption. Fast forward to actually 1996, which is a year after I got sober. I was very much interested, and Sue hit the nail on the head. I'm so irritated at this age. Why do I write on my medical forms NA adopted for you to ask me the same effing question?
Yes.
What's your family history? I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just had to go through a battery of heart tests because, you know, I'm 55, but I had some symptoms, and they were like, well, since we don't know your family history, let's go do these tests, which I think is great, but whatever. In any case, so my parents had this story about my biological parents. They said, you know, you're English, Irish, Scotch, and your father was Polish. So 1996, I get sober. I'm not thinking yet about having children, but I'm an alcoholic. And I always say this in meetings or like when I'm sharing my story. I always felt a part of with my friends. In my family, I felt a little disjointed, like didn't quite belong, felt like I was a little bit of an outsider. And again, I've led a charmed life. I had great grandparents. I had every need met. The other option, from what I've learned later in life, might not have been great. In fact, it wouldn't have been great. So I went back to where I was adopted from, and this is 1996, so there's no internet. So I had to go through like all these psych tests. I said, I want to find my biological mother, and I want to know some of my family medical history. In particular, is their alcoholism.
Right.
So it had to be, you know, tested to make sure I wasn't gonna kill myself if I was rejected.
Or your mother.
You know, like whatever. The opposite.
Or your birth mother.
Yeah.
There's that too.
Yeah. Yeah, like, or they're crazy, you know, like whatever. But anyway, she found the family, and she says to me, your mother married your father, and you have a brother who was born in 1980. So naturally, where
When were
do
you
I go?
born?
Where,
So,
What
yeah.
year
where
were
were
you
you?
born?
What year? Oh, 1970. Sorry,
Okay.
1970. So I go, well, that's interesting. What was wrong with me?
Mm.
My parents are now married. Fast forward, and I can get more into this later because in 2018 now. And so I went on, like whatever. She got a hold of my biological mother on the telly. And the social worker said to me, so I got a hold of your mother and I told her who I was and where I was calling from. And my mother goes, I don't know what you're talking about. Click. So
Mm.
that to me was like, all right, I'm
Yeah.
out. Like I'm not. And then that I put it down. I was like, okay, I don't. And kudos to the women that went before us. My mother, likely raised in a Catholic family, no access to birth control, right?
Right.
It was before Roe v. Wade.
Abortion wasn't an option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, women that went before me, so that I had options, because that could have easily been me and my poor biological mother, what she went through. I had no desire to open up any old wounds, and I still
Yeah.
don't. I
It's funny that you say that because I made up a story.
You
So
did?
you actually had the story. I made
Yeah.
up the story that my biological mother was young and couldn't take care of me, and somehow it in her power to realize that giving me up would is very selfless, and knew that I would have a better life.
Yep.
And then also put the Jewish stereotype on there of knowing that I would get a good education and most likely my parents were financially secure and well off,
Mm.
which both came true.
Mm.
One of the first things I said to Sue when I met her this summer was, I go, "You look Irish." And she goes,
Oh
"I've
yeah,
gotten
I've
that
gotten that my
before."
whole life. Ask Debbie or Deb.
Yeah,
Yeah, like,
Debbie.
I have
and
gotten that my
so
whole entire life. There is no way that you are Jewish. You look Irish.
so for my whole life, right? They would say, "What are you? English, Irish, Scotch, Polish." My dad was Polish. 2018, my daughter for Mother's Day hands me an ancestry test. And she goes, "Here, Ma." And I go, "Oh, cool." I said, "Thanks." Now, I didn't really know much about ancestry. I'm like, "But I already know. I have my written records, yada, yada." She goes, "No, Mom, you don't understand.
Mm.
This is a database where your relatives are going to pop up." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" Okay, so I did it. The first thing now, yeah, my whole life, people are like, "You look Irish. You look really
Yeah.
Irish." First thing that comes back on Ancestry is there's Zippo Polish.
Oh,
Well, so I'm just going to go out on a limb here, and I can say this because I'm Jewish. I would have pegged you as having some Jewishness in you based on the hair and the skin, for
So
sure.
I have like very, very little, what do you call it? Like Germanic. I don't know. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
less than 1%. It's 65% Irish. It keeps
Yeah.
changing too. And then English
Hmm.
and Scotch. Um, so so being, I get that back, and the first thing I realize is, aha, my dad, who was identified as my biological dad, who was identified as my biological dad, was in fact not my dad. So
hmm.
therein lies, and I'll go one step further. So I have these adoption records that have notes in them that explain my mother's state of mind, my biological
Hmm.
mother's state of mind at that time. And she had left the state of Connecticut and went somewhere, supposedly, this is what it says, She came back in her 9th month of pregnancy to her parents who, with her hands up, like, I don't know what to do. And they mentioned marriage to her high school sweetheart. And she said no and threatened suicide. Like, so imagine where her poor little brain was. Like, what she comes back, she has no choices. She doesn't know what to do. And her parents, so my maternal grandparents handled my entire adoption and still identified her high school sweetheart as my dad. But that's
Oh
what's
my
going through
God,
her
this poor
head.
guy.
What's that?
Yeah. So so I'm going to stop you right there because I have never and will never do a DNA test because I don't want anybody knowing where I am. I don't want anybody knocking on my door. I don't want anybody finding me. I don't want to know if I have sisters, cousins, brothers. I don't want anybody
Yep.
to know. And the
You're
curiosity
going on the
of
lam.
yeah. And the curiosity of my ethnicity is not strong enough to push me to do that. Even though people say, well, you can just hit the button that nobody can find you. I don't trust it.
Yeah.
I don't. So
And it's interesting. So when I went on Ancestry, I noticed the 2 people at the top of my page who were my uncles. Poof, they disappeared. Like, it was like because I start reaching out because I'm a little bit like, whatever, no one's really looking for me. And and I'm not worried about, um, I know I'm not crazy. They don't know I'm not, they don't know me.
yeah,
And I'm taking the risk to learn about, and I have reached, I have one cousin who, God bless her, has took the time to speak to me. She's my age and, you know, helped me with some history, um, some medical history, talking about our grandparents, some mental health history, taught me about a little bit what she could about my mother. Um, and then I actually have two half brothers. And one of them did respond to me. And again, my age group. So I feel like, but again, that's their mother, and I'm quite
yeah,
certain they don't want to hurt her feelings, nor do her
yeah.
brothers, nor, and why should they want to? Like, that's not, you know. So then I segued over to my paternal side, where I told this to Deb, like, I read a lot of obituaries because there's obituaries, and several folks, well, not several, but a handful of folks from that side of the family was a friend of Bill's for 40 years, like, so I'm like, aha.
Yeah.
That means they're an AA, for those of you who don't know, code word
Yes.
for, are
Yeah.
you a friend
Thank
of
you.
Bill's? Right.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah. So, I mean, check mark on that genetic link, right?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And I feel like, you mentioned it, Sue. How much does it matter? I love anything to do with sleuthing. Like, it's really interesting to me. I
mhm.
don't know what, I worked,
We're going to call you that from now on. That's your
yeah,
nickname,
Yeah.
like,
Sleuth.
yeah, it, it just interests me,
Yeah. I get that. I
and
get that.
like I learned things like my mom went to Woodstock and she was pregnant with, like, she didn't probably know yet, but like that's
Oh,
kind of
fun.
cool. Like,
Yeah.
like I, you know, whatever.
Are your adoptive parents still alive?
So mom is dead. And in fact, I just, like, a week ago, my dad was asking about his grandfather who drowned in the Potomac River in like the 30s. And so when I did my ancestry, I created two separate trees, my adoptive family and my biological family. And my dad says to me, I wish I knew how my grandfather died, da da da. And I go, well, Dad, I've been meaning to tell you this. Like, I knew my mother couldn't handle
Yeah.
me searching out my biological family because she had some mental illness. She was not stable. So I never would have told her. But my dad, whatever. So
Hmm.
I told him, so I go, Dad, I'm gonna poke around. And sure enough, I did. I found some information, a newspaper article on how this guy drowned and whatever. And he was so grateful. And he just kind of he breezed over like he didn't ask me any questions. He's whatever. He's
Yeah.
84. He's kind of like, yeah, whatever. If you want to know, like he's secure.
Yeah,
He's secure in our relationship.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I always felt, a couple of things that by doing that, I felt like I was kind of slapping my parents in the
Mhm.
face a little bit. But here's the other thing, because we started off talking about triggers or like
Mm-hmm.
really like reactions or things that you do that you really don't understand where they come from.
Yeah.
So, um, number one, I have a deep sense of loyalty to the people in my life. So I'm wondering if it's because, I just didn't feel, I think the connection that you foster those first 6 weeks of your life are so unbelievably valuable.
Yeah.
And so I have my biggest trigger is not being seen or heard.
When you feel you're not being seen or heard, that gets your
That
risen.
triggers me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, oh God, so
I'm
maybe that
kind of
has
like
something to
Deb.
do
I
with
have
that.
that.
And my, I know my parents loved us and provided for us and did all the things. And looking back as a mom now, I can see that there had to have been also some in the beginning of like, because you do have this fear that this baby could be taken away from you
Yeah.
within like the first however many months or a year or whatever that statute of
Yeah.
limitations is, right? So I know for me, I would be like, oh my God, I can't get too deep in the woods because if this baby is taken away, like it would wreck me, right? So my mom always was like, and I know that she loved us and I know that she's super proud of us and she's still actually alive. My dad died a long time ago. That raising us was like her job. Like she signed up to make sure nothing happened to us until we hit 21 or graduated from college. Like you needed to do this and you needed to, and it was like this checklist of like, and then she sort of breathed this sigh of relief when we both got our college degrees, like, okay, like I hit the finish line, I'm done. And then from that point, it was always like, well, you can do whatever you want to do. If you want to go, my job is, she would say, my job is done. So if you would like to go find your biological story or your parents or whatever, I'm not going to stop you.
Huh.
And, now that she's much older, and so it was always like, that always kind of stung me because I was always like, well, like I don't want to be looked at as like a job, I hope you
I
had I
trust
hope you
me.
had some fun in there. I hope that staff meetings were fun for you. But I think number one, that was a little bit of a protection mechanism, right? And that she needed to make good on that commitment that she made, right? In adopting us. As she's getting older and a little, I don't want to say she's infirm, but she's older. She's almost 87. Every time I see her, or especially like if my family and my brother's family are around her, she is, I'm so lucky that you still have decided to be here.
Hmm.
Oh.
Where for me and my brother, it was a decision, but I think she felt like you know, when she decided to do the adoption and raise us, she looked at it as a job, where my brother and I don't look at it as a job. We look at it as they're our parents, and like, this is what you do.
Yeah.
What about
So
you? Did you ever
Sue,
feel from your parents that like they signed up to do a job till you were 21?
so my brother and I were literally just having this conversation, and he said, and I quote, I felt like at 18, because neither of us went to college. We did for a minute, but we were troubled. So we quickly dropped out.
Trouble.
So, but we felt like, and he said this, Mom clocked out. 18, you're on your
Yeah.
own. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
that,
like there's no this maternal instinct in my mother at all. Or like, let me help you with your kids when my kids were little and I was trying to figure out how to work, and it was like, I did my job. That's a direct quote. I
so
did
same.
my job. Now it's
That
your turn. And I'm
I
like,
am so glad to
okay.
hear this.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
am like, because my brother and I, we feel like there was no maternal, like again, my dad was the one playing on the ground with us. He was bedtime
My dad.
stories. He was bath time.
Yeah.
He was like, and he worked. My mom was in the home. It was her job. And she had these horror stories. She said, like, for the first year of my life, they would come and she said they would like strip me naked and look like at the bottom of my feet to make sure she wasn't like poking me with anything. Like it was traumatic for her. And I feel really, really
Hmm.
bad about that. But like,
Wait, I have a question.
yes, yes, Deborah.
Are you saying that once you're placed in your adopted home, that people still come and they'll make sure that you're in a safe environment?
So for probably for Sue and I, who were adopted through agency, my brother came from the state of Connecticut, and they were like, "Psh,
Yeah,
whatever,
very
take this
different.
kid, you're
Very
on your own."
different.
Like
Yeah.
they didn't have the same standards that Jewish and Catholic Family Services had. I'm quite certain I got the bill. It was 1970, and it was like $1,800 they paid for me, which is a large sum back then,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. But
Yeah,
Sue,
but you
did
know,
they
back
come, did
then
they
we have
come,
to,
did they come and look at
I don't
you?
know. I have no idea. I do know that my parents moved. So they were living in Philadelphia. My brother was adopted through Jewish Family Services in Philadelphia. I was adopted in Jewish Family Services in New Jersey, even though they were still living in Philadelphia. But when I was 6 months old, they moved to Connecticut. So I don't really know. I would say I doubt it for a year,
Yeah, yeah.
a full year. I don't, my mother never, nobody ever told me if that was protocol.
Okay,
I don't
interesting. All
know.
right. Sorry, Kristen. Go ahead.
No, no,
But you
no.
know, the clocking out thing, Kristen, is, and Deb can attest to this, is my default is I don't need any help.
Yep.
I can fucking do this myself and fuck off.
Fuck off. Yep. I don't need you.
You know what I mean? And so I guess it is one of those things that you could feel the energy that people, that it was like, okay, this is our job, right? And then the energy was blatant when they're like, okay, job done.
And the
Wow.
grandkids too. It's interesting that you say that with all my brother has two children and I had two children, and my mother would say, I don't hold babies, been there, done that. And I was like, oh my God, how fucking hurtful. Like,
Yeah.
F you. Like, it just drove that wedge. And my
Yeah. Like,
father, again, hold,
yeah, like my
play.
parents babysat, don't get me wrong, and they had a great relationship with my children. But it wasn't like I see like my sisters-in-law all like wanting to be like the daycare providers for their grandkids. And my
Yeah,
mom's like, yeah, no, I'm
yeah.
not doing that. Like,
Mm.
but you know, they did babysit, and my kids have, you know, compared to I think my brother's kids, because they were born a lot later, and my mom's been on her own for a really long time. Um, you know, they have a great relationship with my kids. But it was like, hey, we're not doing anything on Saturday night. Would you like us to watch the kids so you can go out?
right. And I
And it
had
was my
this,
dad who picked my kids up, or at least Olivia up from daycare and drove her to kindergarten for me.
he did
Because
that.
I was working. Yeah, because it was half day, half
Nice.
day kindergarten, all that other shit. And he was semi-retired at that point. But
I'm pretty sure if
yeah.
my mother was not alive, like my adult children right now, my father, who's on his been on his own for a year, he does not have a really close relationship with my children because my mother called the shots and they were never, not one soccer game, not one
Oh yeah,
band
that was very
concert,
different for me.
none of that. They didn't go to anything. And as a consequence, there's like I was wicked close with my maternal grandparents, my mother's parents, um,
Yeah.
because I just adored them and they were whatever. But yeah,
Yeah, so that was different for me. I'd say more like my mom would say like she's not going to be my daycare provider.
yes,
But
yes,
soccer, like milestones, soccer, all the things,
they were there.
they were there. Yeah.
So
And
kind
they
of
did
like
do their fair share of watching my kids.
yeah, they were not. My mother-in-law took my children, Steve and Marilyn, who Deb and I have talked about on a few of our other podcasts.
Hmm.
They were like pseudo parents to me. They took
Hmm.
Jessica, um, but kind of getting back to the independent thing that you talked about, Sue. F you, I can do it all on my own. I kind of like that. I attribute my brother and I will say today, our parents made us who we are. We're really
Amen.
strong, we're
Yes.
successful, we're independent. It's
Yep.
great. I went through many years of codependent, and I still have what Deb talks about, that fear of abandonment. I still have that. And I did some therapy work on it, and it's good to look at it and know why.
Mhm.
Um,
Hmm.
but like, I'm okay with rejection now. I'm okay with not being, like with the way my mom was. Like, I'm older, I've accepted it all. But I do think it being adopted has if affected my relationships, in particular my male-female relationships, I think,
Hmm.
because there's a you know there's something in there that's not quite. I got the
Well,
fear of abandonment, but I'm gonna run away before you do, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna leave
Yep.
you
Hmm. Before I get
before I get
left.
fucked
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
well,
So
and
Feel like
you
I've done
also,
a, go ahead, Deb.
I was gonna say, Kristen and I talk about this a lot too. Like she also has the choose me syndrome.
mm,
Like I don't necessarily want you, but I want you to to choose me.
Right.
And I
yeah.
wonder if somehow that is all entangled with the, you know, please, please, I hope this isn't like hurtful or offensive or anything. That's not what I mean to say, but like if your mom didn't choose to keep you, maybe that's why you're like, you've got the choose me thing going on. You want everybody
Well,
to
it
choose
begs
you.
this nature versus nurture kind of situation, right? Like, because my brother and I don't know about you, Kristen, and your brother, we grew up in a household. Unfortunately, we're parented very differently. And the reason why I say unfortunately is because we're both very different. Like I could have used a different style of parenting. And that was the one thing that when I had my kids, I'm like, I am going to parent to their personalities. I am not going to try and shove them into this one parenting box that I know how to do. But we are complete opposites. Like, and so there has to be playing a lot of nature
Nature.
in that difference. You know what I mean? Because we were nurtured the same.
Mm,
So my brother and I are like, I would say the closest individual in my family has always been my brother. Like
Interesting.
he lives in Seattle, but we talk at least once a week. He was he's just a wonderful human being. We have the same sense of humor. We think the same way. And
Yeah.
it's nurture. And one of the things I talked about when Deb and I talked about me losing my mom, it, to be able to bounce off a sibling who was raised in the same environment, like we just were
Yes.
talking about the
Yes.
clocking out, mom clocked out. Like, what the fuck is that? My
Yeah. I
kids
mean, there
are.
are times now that my brother's 60 and I'm 57. We will be like, well, you know how mom is. And I always have like this weird reaction because I never thought my brother paid any attention to how my mother was. And he'll even say, like, you might want to sit on delivering that information to mom until you're ready to receive her reaction that is not going to be the reaction that you want.
Oh my God,
And even my daughter is like,
you might want to
you know how
sit on
grandma
that.
is. Like,
Mhm.
don't go looking for something that she is not capable of providing you. Do you know what I mean? But I do believe that a lot of some of my triggers, or my we started this podcast talking about our internal stories and our,
Mm.
the chapters that we
Character
write
defects.
Mm.
about ourselves. And I do believe that my eating issues and my exercise issues came from feeling out of control when I was a teenager, because I always felt like my mom was trying to parent me the same way as my brother, and it worked for him and it wasn't really working for me. And I just felt like, like I just felt this angst a
Mm.
lot.
Right, because every
And
kid is different.
yeah, and it has to come from, I firmly believe, and I'm not pointing the finger at my mother at all.
Mm.
Everybody does the best they can with what they know, right? But I do think that just gonna go to that. My brother was 5 weeks, so 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks of being cared for by the person that you know is not going to be keeping you is
Mm.
way different than bonding with
Mm.
the child that you know that is yours and you're going to keep.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I agree. How are we looking on time, Sue? I don't have a timer on my thing.
We're getting close. We're getting close. A couple minutes maybe.
Okay. So,
So let me
I,
ask you, Deb.
uh,
Kristin and I the only two people that you know that are adopted?
no, both of my ex sister-in-laws are adopted. Kenny's first wife, Greg's first wife. I know several people who are adopted. A lot of
And
them are in AA.
Shocking.
Yeah. Or
and what do you see as common denominators for all of
Mm.
us, if there are any?
We're
I
crazy.
well,
Yeah, we
no,
are a
I
little
will
nuts.
say that the ones that I know do have, either some a substance use issue or a mental health issue. I mean, I really honestly, but I think I don't think that's necessarily because of being adopted. I think
Mm.
that's just
Right.
because of,
The luck of the draw.
well, just because we all try to live in this world that is everybody's so different, and we come to the table with our own
Yeah.
baggage, and then sometimes it can make you crazy. So,
Hmm.
um, but no, I mean, it never occurred to me any which way, I don't really
Yeah.
have different any thoughts about
Okay.
that.
That's
Um,
honest and true.
yeah, I mean, I've known you forever, and I've always known that you're adopted, and it just never really fazed me. I mean, I was always curious, like, oh,
Hmm.
well, why can't they have their own kids? I don't know why, like that
Well,
I
I mean,
get
it's
hung up
just,
on that,
that's
but
what pops in, right? I mean, that's what sort of pops in.
yeah, I mean, I had I fertility issues, and Hunter ended up being an in vitro baby. So it's like I get it. Sometimes you just can't get
Hmm.
pregnant. But one,
And sometimes you don't understand these things until you have kids of your own. And then like these light bulbs start going off like, oh,
yes, exactly.
yeah.
So I want to, one other question for you, to a mom out there that is in the process or thinking of adopting, or maybe a whatever that might look like. Would you tell her just be open from the get-go about the adoption? I mean, I know it went well for you
Yes.
both, but
100%. Yes.
okay.
Yes.
I don't think it's fair to the person receiving the information to live a life of assuming something, and then you get set and your whole world, everything that you believed is told to you that it didn't exist.
Yeah. I can
There's
It was
nothing
hard enough.
shameful. And I think people did that back then because they were ashamed. They lived with the shame of not being able to have their own children or whatever it was. And there's no shame involved. You are, I mean, to me, when you adopt somebody, and I am not getting into abortion or anything like that, you are saving
Yeah.
a child. And more importantly, you are saving a mother, knowing that, you know, this mother is making the most difficult decision of her entire life. And it's not selfish to give a baby up. It is selfless.
Selfless, 100%.
And you are praising this woman for knowing that there's something better out there for her child than she can provide.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't tell
It's
you
a
how many
gift.
times people said to me, how could your mother have given you up? And I would say exactly what you just said, Sue.
Yeah.
That is the most
Selfish to-
selfless act. She carried me.
Yeah.
She went through what she went through. And the
Yeah.
other thing I'll say too is like, we have to too, and I learned this with my whole ancestry experience, put ourselves in each other's shoes, right?
Amen.
Like, please
Yeah.
understand me as an adoptee. I'm curious. I want to know. I just want to know. I want to know Grandpa did that and you're doing the same. I'm never going to know that, but that's okay. Like, but, and then at the same time, we must, as adoptees, be sympathetic, empathetic to, in particular, our biological mothers who went through this traumatic
Right.
event,
Yeah.
and they may not want to know about it anymore, or it may be too hurtful.
Well, that's the thing. It might be too painful for them to bring it up, or, you know, I think it's far more selfish to keep a baby and know that you cannot provide for the child just because of whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? And, you know, I'm oh my God, I lost my train of thought, but it had something to do with, you know, everybody is different, right? Everybody's adoptive story is different. But I would say to an adoptee, don't go looking for your biological parents as a fuck you to your biological parents if you don't really enjoy them, or you're feeling, you know, that doesn't provide any type of solution for anybody. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
because you could
We
end up.
happen to have hit the lottery, and I know there's a lot of people out there that didn't. But
And I think also it's worth saying that, you know, when you adopt a child, you don't know what their chemical makeup is.
Correct.
You don't know what
Correct.
traumas, like they could have
Right.
and you're committing to taking care of this human being through it all. So,
And I would say the same thing, you know, the same thing that, you know, the question that you asked is, would you be, you know, say to a, you know, adoptive parents today, please be open to everything. Be open to the fact that there is some DNA at work that you will have no idea when or where or if it will ever surface. To, you know, be patient and to check all the boxes and really just provide love
right.
for the child, and know that there may be or not things down the road
So
that you have to
I
tackle as a family.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that you guys keep saying you hit the jackpot with your parents, but they hit the jackpot with you as well, because it can go very wrong.
Agreed.
Yeah.
100% agree. I agree with that right there. That is the best statement and a really good closing statement.
Yes. Well, I would love to continue this conversation.
I do too. I would
Talk
love
to
to
other
also, because
people.
there's so much more.
There's so much more. And if there's anybody out there that's listening that has an adoption story, you've adopted a child, you're adopted, and maybe didn't hit the jackpot with your parents, you know, whatever. Let's get that
Right.
discussion going. And
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We'll do it again. I promise. We
I'm
can
willing to
continue.
help anybody that has a journey with ancestry, use my
Yeah.
sleuthing skill. Like it's so fun. To just kind of, I met a woman recently who actually connected with her biological father, and I was so intrigued by the whole story. And it can go either way. Mine was not very successful, but there's a lot of information out there that you can get where you don't have to bother people. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you don't have to bother the actual human.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Well,
until next time.
well,
guess.
but tell us how everybody can get in touch with us, Sue, because you always close us out with
Oh, sorry. We have an email,
Mhm.
rewind and reflect with us.com. It's all spelled out. We also post on social media that you can any one of us. We are sort of interconnected and woven for the rest of our lives. So lock and load, Kristin. And please, DM any one of us. Do you have something to say? Do you want to come up with a topic? Anything. We'd love to hear from all of you.
Namaste, everybody. Until next time. Love you all.
Till next time, love you.
Bye.